All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is exactly 12 o'clock. And my name is Dan Sugg, and I'm coming to you from our headquarters building at Evergreen here in beautiful Lathrop Village. And I am the Chief Mortgage Lending Officer for Michigan First Mortgage. And we are super excited to bring you another installment of our virtual home buying seminar. And today I'm very excited to have one of our partners on with Michigan First Insurance. We are super excited about covering this. It's the first time we'll be featuring Michigan First Home Insurance with us today. So I'm really excited to get through that. You can see by the slide that's up now, my name is Dan Sugg, and it's going to be my honor to introduce our guest today. And we're going to cover, for the better part of this call, the importance of homeowners insurance when financing your home, or really in all aspects of home ownership. We hope to get to some topics that you find interesting and certainly useful. And then at the end, we're going to cover and go back to really the tips and tricks, the three things from each of our guests today that we find super helpful. And if you remember anything today, that's what you're going to take away. And then lastly, we'll have a closing, and hopefully there's some interactive chat discussion going on. So if you do have a question, please use the chat box. And just a quick reminder, we are going to record this call like we do all of them and post them on our website to have you look at or refer back to or refer family and friends to. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce a second-time person on this call. James Lutz is one of our loan officers here at Evergreen. James has been with Michigan First Mortgage for a while now and has been lending to clients and primarily purchase clients for most of his career. James, welcome to the call, and tell us a little bit about yourself. You're on mute, James.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the heads up. So my name's James Lutz. Been doing this for about 11 years, been with Michigan First for the last roughly 2.5 of it. And like Dan said, my main focus has always been primarily on helping people with their purchases. It is a big deal. It's a big part of their life. I understand that. I've gone through it a few times myself, and I take great pride in the way that I build relationships with different people, which helps make a very complicated, stressful process a little bit easier and actually enjoyable in most cases. I'm just a normal guy outside of what I do for work. I have 3 kids, 1 more on the way, and nothing too eventful. I love sports and our Detroit teams and just hanging out with the family. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thanks, James. And maybe, I don't know if something's near your mic, it's picking up a little bit of interference with your mic, like something's rubbing against it. So maybe just check that out for us. I appreciate it. And
I hear that too. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm next to our next expert today, Bree. Is it Shimkus, Bree? I want to make sure I say that correctly.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Bree is with, and I feel like I know Bree because it's Brianna, but I'm calling her Bree. And Bree is joining us on behalf of Michigan First Insurance Agency. And certainly you can read her bio there, but in the short time I've known Bree, she clearly is one of the experts in the business. And hopefully today we'll get through a conversation that will provide us some input and wisdom. But Bree, tell us a little bit about you, your insurance business, and how you carry yourself. I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Perfect. I want to make sure it was working. So my name is Brianna Bree. I'm in the insurance field for about 6 years now. I'm primarily writing home insurance and do write different lines of business. My care of numbers and everything is making sure that you understand what you're getting because it is your policy that you're paying for. Someone wants to shop for insurance, but we try to make it fun and to make it the best experience and everything. So just know that we'll care.
Yeah, and we are getting a little latency in your connection all of a sudden. So I don't know. I know there was a solar flash eclipse that was affecting the internet over the past few days. So hopefully we'll get through this okay. All right, well, let's jump right into our topic today, homeowners insurance. I've been a homeowner now very proudly for close to 33 years and certainly have had insurance that whole time. And I still feel like I learned something new about insurance every day. So let's just jump right in. I'll go my first question to Bree. And as much as we can, please use the chat box team if you have any follow-up questions. So talk to me a little bit about what's the difference between a policy, a deck page or a declarations page, and some of the other components of homeowners insurance. We certainly see it a lot here in mortgage. So help us understand what the difference is.
So the main thing is with a policy, the policy is basically going to be your entire contract. It's going to list off every single thing for coverages. It's going to list off things that are not covered. It's going to have any endorsements that you have purchased, extra coverages, for example, like jewelry and things like that. The declaration page is normally what the lender is going to ask for when going through a closing, and also, going through just the mortgage and everything. It's going to list off your main coverages, the insured location, the mortgage information, but it normally does not have optional coverages that you add endorsements. The premium is normally just going to be, to put it simple, the annual rate that you pay for the entire year. So that's pretty much the gist of it when dealing with the different documents you need. One term, though, that I do want to bring up to a binder, you will probably be provided a binder. That's often referred to as a declarations page, to not get it confused.
Yeah, and James, if I can go, because I know from a mortgage standpoint, we run into this as lenders a lot. What do we need to close the loan? I know we may get a quote or something up front that looks a little different, but what do we need to actually close the loan?
So what I tell people is at that part of the process, which usually is within the first week of having a purchase agreement, is when I start talking to them about, the home insurance part of the process. And what I tell them to do is, obviously give Michigan First Insurance a shot because of a lot of different reasons, which we can talk about later. But at the end of the day, I need your policy with the premium. I need the declarations page and the invoice to be paid at closing, or a receipt showing that you paid for that policy upfront already. So those are the items that I put on the email or list to them over the phone when we're talking about it.
Yeah. James, we'll come back to that in a minute, but there are times and programs that more get paid at closing or get paid prior to closing. So we'll come back to that one. So, Brianna, so we talked about the deck page and the binder, but if I'm searching for a home, I don't know really when I'm going to close. So how do I get an accurate quote and get all that lined up with my insurance agent? How does that work?
So typically what's going to happen, the way, the agents over here handle it, the way that I personally handle it is first, I'll find that you're going through with a new home closing. And then once I know that, basically I'm normally able to pull up everything about the property and go through the whole quoting process. So you don't have to, have everything in front of you normally. I know a lot of people stress about that when they call insurance and they want to be prepared when they call, but normally we can find everything that we need to about the home on public records. But in regards to the closing date and everything, basically what's going to happen is we will go through, provide the quote and everything, and at the end, normally load off their name, phone number, email that you're specifically working with. And as long as you give us the okay to get everything finalized with the loan officer, we reach out to them and handle all the legwork for you. So we'll confirm the closing date, we'll confirm how it needs to be listed on the policy for mortgage information, your phone number, everything we need, all the documents you need. And then normally we do the same day, bind everything or finalize everything same day and send it over to them. And then that's the last step normally that you need with the insurance.
Yeah. That's interesting. We do try to make it as convenient as possible. James, tell me a little bit about when somebody makes the application and actually finds a property, how do we get their information automatically to Michigan First Insurance?
Well, it's from what I understand, it's actually built right into our system since we do have a partnership relationship with the insurance division. When they do a formal application, I'm talking to Bree about this morning, they get an automatic notification via email or whatever that says this person is, applied for a mortgage, seeking a mortgage, and they will generally, quickly reach out, introduce themselves and say, hey, we are an option out here. You know, we'd love the opportunity to help you. And getting a free quote from an insurance company can't hurt. It can literally only help. So why not give these guys a shot? I've had nothing but good times and success with them in the past.
Yeah, and certainly it is meant to be a convenience. And Brianna, what does it cost to get a quote from Michigan First Insurance?
So all quotes are free. There's no charge to get a quote.
Yeah, and how long does a typical quote take? So let's say I'm buying a home and I get in touch, you make that call out, we get in touch today. How quickly can you get me back to let me know about what my insurance is going to run me for my new home?
So typically when you're dealing with calling in and everything, what normally happens is you will connect with an agent, basically get the basic information. And like I said, they should be able to pull everything up about the home. To be honest, I myself can normally handle a quote and a bind. We'll finalize for a policy in about 20 minutes. So it's pretty quick. Normally the loan officers are on top of it. We're providing the information member on what they need and their loan number if they have it, and proposed closing date. So as long as we have all of that call, we're able to bind on the call and get the documents over really quick. So even in that frame, 20 minutes may sound long to some people, but it may. We're also shopping through many different carriers because so it's better than calling over to each carrier directly, like Progressive, Allstate, State on, where you can call each one of them. So it's a lot more.
Brianna, we're losing your connection a little bit. Maybe just for kicks and giggles, maybe turn your video off. It might help with the actual bandwidth. But all right, James, while we're figuring that out, what do we look for in insurance? What would your advice to be some of our members? Hey, when obviously they're going to get an opportunity to talk to Michigan First Insurance, but what are some of the tenets that you would give your members to look for in an insurance carrier?
Things that are important to the members that I serve are the same things that are important to me and my own family. So I would say how easily you are able to get a hold of them, how quickly, like Brianna said, 20 minutes may seem like a long time. No, I was just on hold with a different insurance, a big insurance carrier for over 20 minutes this morning before I even got through to somebody. So being able to just touch base and get them on the phone is step one. Step two, which may be the most important to the member, the customer, is the knowledge of the insurance agent that you're talking to. Insurance policies are more like mortgages. They're not cookie cutter. There is not a one size fits all. Depending on what you have in your life, how many kids, how many pets, what type of home, what's important to you should something happen. So having an agent that can really dive deep into that with them and cater a policy specific to that member with speed. That's another very important thing to us in this business because we are on a clock. It is constantly. So we need that information quickly and it needs to be accurate the first time. And again, if something changes later, another important thing is how quickly can that company act, make the changes and get it back to us at the mortgage bank. Those are all the important things to us and to the member.
Great. Brianna, are you back with us?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Absolutely.
Sorry, I was trying to switch out of the VDI. I think that's why I was doing that. So
Yeah,
I
you
think
you sound 100%.
we should be good now.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's change a little bit. We've talked a lot about the front end piece and getting a quote and how we do that and what to look for. All right, let's say I have my insurance now, and what does it cover me for? And I heard you mention earlier about adding jewelry or other things to the policy. How does that work? And those other things.
So as far as coverages go, typically the main coverages with home insurance are going to be like for fire, lightning, wind or hail, hurricane, tornadoes, vandalism, things like that. The two biggest things that I normally touch base on as an agent with members that a lot of people do not realize is not covered underneath of normally any home policy with any company is earthquake and natural rising flood. So even though you may not be in a flood zone and it may not be required for you to carry with your lender, you still may want to take a stab at looking into, the flood insurance because it can actually be very cheap and it can protect you in the long run because you don't want it to have to kick in where FEMA has to come in and, take care of things on their time. And when you could have, had an insurance policy to cover you to get it done a lot faster.
And we do have, there is flood insurance where it actually is in a flood zone where we're required to make them get it. And then there's kind of like floods, like sumps backing up or drains backing up or those types. I want to make the delineation. There's two different types of flood insurance, right?
So as far as that goes with the drains backing up, we do have a lot of people that refer to it as flood, which I actually used to before I worked for insurance. The term for that is normally water sewer backup. That is normally excluded from your home insurance policy as well. But I know us over here within the agency, we normally try to add on the coverage on every policy right off the bat. But the difference is that with flood coverage, that is something that is completely separate. So any water that naturally rises up and comes into the property can be considered flood. So if your drains just back up or something like that, that's normally going to be water backup.
Yeah.
It just depends on the main cause of the loss. But
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I know in Michigan, we have a lot of sump pumps, and that seems to be the number one reason a basement will get wet is that pump fails. Nobody looks at that pump or pays attention to the pump fail. It's happened to me. And then the water table rises up through and comes into the cracks. And that does, I think, require a separate rider on your insurance, correct?
Yeah. And to be honest, it normally does not make that much of a price difference. So that's why before I even provide the quote, I'll normally attach it in and then tell them everything that's covered. I do give them the option, if they do not want to carry it. But I do want to make sure they understand, what is covered and that they will not have coverage for this if they do not purchase it. But to touch base too on the jewelry insurance that you asked about, not a lot of people know that jewelry normally is covered underneath of your home insurance policy or if you're a renter and so forth. And a lot of people tend to get the coverage through like a jeweler when they purchase something, but that's typically just a warranty that covers for cleanings and like if a stone falls out. There's actually insurance on your home insurance or a separate rider that you can get that provides coverage for if you lose it or have it stolen or randomly mysteriously disappears. That's a huge thing, especially with wedding bands and engagement rings and nice watches. So I always throw that in there because there is a theft limit that's normally on home insurance too, that is on jewelry and things of that sort, that if you have 5,000 stolen in jewelry and let's say that you have a theft limit of only $1,000, well, you would literally only get up to $1,000 back and depreciated value. So it's a big thing to make sure that you talk to your agent about that and ask them, if you can add jewelry coverage or any separate riders.
It's always interesting to me.
I got a good question that was in the chat box. This is very good that someone asked it. How does credit scores affect insurance? Because it obviously has a huge effect on our mortgage end. Does it have an impact on the insurance?
So as far as credit scores go, it's normally an insurance-based credit score that's ran. So it basically takes into account like how long you've been with insurance companies, like if you've had any claims or losses, like things of that sort. That's how it's normally rated, like in the background. So it's not really a heavy hitter on it. Some insurance companies don't even take it into account with underwriting. It all varies with each carrier that you go with and how they're going to underwrite for it and so forth.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I guess just to wrap up a little bit, home insurance is a pretty broad coverage when it's not just covering the house, but maybe like, what if a bike was stolen out of my yard? Does house insurance cover that too?
So as far as the coverage goes with the home, you have your main structure that it covers, your main dwelling. Then you have any separate structures that are on the property, like your fence or a shed, like anything that is considered detached. You also have coverage on your personal property. So the way I explain it is pretty much think if you were to take your home and flip it upside down, anything that falls out is considered personal property, to make it simple. So your clothing, furniture, electronics, everything like that. And it's typically covered worldwide. So you can have items in your car, someone breaks in and steals it. That's not normally covered underneath auto insurance. That would normally fall underneeth your home insurance. So in
Wow.
reference to the bike, that's the same thing. Good thing you bring up bikes though, because that is another thing you can add to the policy, like jewelry. Because depending on what type of bike it is, if it's a high value bike, you want to add it based on the appraised value so you can get the full value for it in the event something happens. So if there's anything
Yeah,
of high value, you always just want to bring it up and see if it's something that there could be coverage for.
Yeah, very cool. I've been researching e-bikes lately and they're not cheap. So certainly would be interesting to have that covered. All right. James, real quick, we got a few more minutes here. I guess, how do I know, let's say for some reason I can't get a hold of Bree in the beginning and you're talking to a member, how do I know how much insurance I'm going to need on my house? Is it what I pay for the house or is it actually the mortgage amount? What are the requirements? Do you know?
I don't know exactly what they are, but I have a general idea because each program specifically for MISHDA, FHA, conventional, VA, they kind of have different guidelines on the minimum coverages you need and the deductibles. Generally speaking, you're going to want to have it cover at least the mortgage amount. That way, in case of a catastrophic disaster, that, you know, the collateral in the bank's eyes is going to be covered for you. Above and beyond that is, I would say, more of a personal choice. And you know, if your house were to burn down, do you have enough insurance coverage to rebuild that same home or better?
Right. And Brad, he mentioned replacement costs. Is that pretty common today?
Yeah, so I was going to touch base and piggyback on what James said too. So the home is covered for replacement value. It's normally not actual cash value, it's replacement value. The biggest thing though in Michigan is you are dealing with a lot of low market value properties where you could purchase a home, you know, for 50,000, 100,000. But if you put that same home in Los Angeles, California, you're going to pay 5 times the amount because of the location. But the rebuild and replacement costs of the property is typically still going to be the same because it's material, labor, and debris removal that you're using. So what I always say, you know, with dealing with properties in Michigan is I always get the question, I'm only taking out a loan for $100,000, but you're insuring me for $250,000. That doesn't make sense. I feel like I'm overpaying. Well, the thing is that the rebuild of your property, it is going to take $250,000 to rebuild, you know, a 2,000 square foot property, even though it didn't cost that much to purchase it, because market value fluctuates on the daily and goes by the appraised amounts in the area and so forth. So there's a lot of different factors that go into it, but just know that the replacement value typically does not match your loan amount normally.
Another good question for you, Bree, I don't know if you saw it in the chat box, is if someone has a deck and it is not attached to the home, would that be considered personal rather than dwelling? So
with the deck, if your deck is attached to the home, like coming out of a door, which normally it is, then that's going to be considered part of the dwelling, which falls underneath of your coverage, a dwelling coverage. But if you have anything separating it basically from the door, and then let's say it's a walkout patio or something, like concrete, and then the deck is placed there, that's different. That's going to be other structures. But anything that is physically attached to the home is considered your dwelling. Another, I was going to say breezeways. People always ask about that too. Breezeways going from the house to the garage, that's going to be considered attached to the dwelling along with that garage at that point. So it would all fall under your dwelling coverage.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, freestanding decks would be outside structure because if you turn it upside down, it wouldn't fall away. I love that analogy, by the way. It was very helpful. We are right up against our timeline. I did want to, can you cover just a little bit if somebody has a claim, how that works and what they should do?
Yeah, so as far as the claims process goes, number one, your duty as an insured, you would want to, of course, report it, call into the claims team. And then typically what happens is there's going to be a claims adjuster that's assigned to your case. And they'll come out and work with you to determine like where the coverage is going to fall in the policy to help get the payout. Now, in my experience, the claims process with like carriers that we work with is exceptional. So, of course, with the partnership with the insurance and the different carriers and everything, and also being under Michigan First, we want to make sure that, we're providing excellent customer service, and claims process to the members and, work with very reputable carriers. So just to put you guys more at ease, they do also normally carry a very high AM Best rating with the carriers we work with, which is something that you really want to look for when shopping around for your insurance, because that shows how financially stable they are, how their customer service is, and how, they can handle like claims payouts and everything like that.
What was that called again? You said AM Best?
Yep, AM Best rating.
Okay. A good thing to ask for when you're talking to an insurance company. All right, well, we've reached that time of the call today when we're going to move to our tips and tricks. So Zareen, if you could pop that screen up for us. So if you think about whether it's the mortgage side of today's discussion or the insurance side, here are the three things. So James, why don't you lead us off for the three things you look for in insurance?
Yep, like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, the main things that I care about when we're working together is speed. How quickly are you going to take the initial call, get the work done? How quickly can you respond back if you're busy? Knowledge, making sure that the information is correct and that the policy is correct. All the information that we legally need is there, but above and beyond that, that you have taken the absolute best care of the client that we are sharing and making sure that the policy fits their needs. And then overall work ethic, not everything's going to be perfect. If, we need something quickly changed in the middle of the process or before closing, bumping up a closing date or the effective date for the policy, those things happen. How quickly are you going to be able to work with us to get that information to us correctly so we can close that loan and make the member happy? Yeah, and another reason I think to associate an affiliation like Michigan First Mortgage with Michigan First Insurance, we certainly value those partners, and I think hopefully get as good or the best service that they offer. So, Bree, from your side, the three things you'd love our members to take away from today?
As far as takeaways, of course, you want to make sure that you have the right coverage when you're purchasing home insurance and not get like a cookie cutter policy, because your home is normally going to be your biggest asset at the end of the day and one of the biggest investments. So you want to make sure that you're protecting, your home, your family, and everything, like if something were to happen. In regards to working with an agency, like I said, there's multiple different options with shopping. So you literally just make one phone call and have your policy shopped through multiple different big carriers rather than having to spend all the time on hold with each carrier directly and getting a quote with them one by one. So it saves you a lot of time and effort and makes it, less stressful during the home buying process. But also with working with an agency, we do have the ability to work up auto insurance for you as well, along with many different other lines of business, such as life insurance, boat insurance, and so forth. So we can actually look at bundling them together to help save you money there on the home insurance as well.
Yeah, and it does get, I think, somewhat complex to bundle them all, but the cost savings are well worth it if you can do that, and certainly the ease and convenience later when you're looking to make any changes, it's all in one place. So thank you both today for joining us, Bree and James. We've had an excellent conversation, one of the best ones I think we've had yet. So For you, those of you on the call, if you have any questions about the seminar itself, the mechanics, how it works, or you need to find something about it, please use that mortgage seminars at michiganfirst.com. And then, of course, if you want to talk to James or one of his coworkers, fellow loan officers in the state of Michigan, or really in any of the states that we work in, make sure to use michiganfirst.com. And then James's direct question and contact information is there below also. You can reach our loan officers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 800-664-3828 and just choose mortgage. For Bree and all of her cohorts, the phone number is there and they're available from 8 to 8:30. And of course, at michiganfirst.com, we have an insurance page there with all kinds of information. Thank you all for attending today's call. We really appreciate it. And just a reminder, this will all be up on our website for you to view at any time or pass along to anyone that you know. So thanks, James and Bree. We appreciate your time and have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, bye-bye.